there is definitely a narrative around adoption, especially in movies, that has this wanting, struggling, tragic child, but not too tragic, not too realistic, not too extreme, going through this self affirming journey to find this perfect family that is like their soul family, their meant family, their forever family. And the movie ends on their union, and this happily ever after implied that, well, everything was fine after that, and that's it. That's the end of the. That's the end. It centers the child's experiences on adoption only, and doesn't really see the child themselves in full context. And it's one of the problems, one of the major problems with the way people think about adoption, and it definitely affects adoptees. You know, in these narratives, the older child, it's always an older child, um, who's doing this, has this role that they need to play. Like in Annie, I know after I was adopted, my dad's took me to see Annie, and she's a perfect example of this. Then, you know, she comes from this really sad background, and then she's able to be saved by this kind person, and everything is fine. It uses her as a tool in order to emotionally fulfill the savior, the parent, the adopter. But the thing is, you know, children who are in the foster system, who are in the adoption system, who are owned by the state, who don't have homes, their circumstances are way more extreme than Annie's or August Rush or any other, you know, of those stories that are feel good, you know. It doesn't feel good to be an adopted child. It doesn't feel good. And your experience exists almost entirely outside of the adoptive context, but that's what you are. You are a commodity, and you're expected to perform. So even if you're not happy on the day of your adoption, or if you think about your parents, the ones you've come from, you're not really supposed to express that or show that grief, because you're supposed to be grateful and overjoyed about having your happy ever after. I remember being there. I remember being in so many offices where people were telling me what was happening or what was going to happen, or talking to each other about me, around me, and just not feeling like I was there at all. Not being able to really process and understand that everything that was happening to me. Because all of this happened after everything else. I had already been through it. I had already gone through the pain that made it necessary for me to be adopted in the first place. But once I was there, it was like a complete and total reset was hit. And I couldn't understand anything. It felt like I was in a completely different world. This narrative is just not of reality. It's not how it works in real life. I mean, children who are older in the adoption system, as they usually are in these narratives, they come from far more extreme situations than in the movies. And once they're in the system, they continue to be unstable. They get fostered, returned, moved. I mean, I got lucky and I was in a group home for a little while, and it wasn't the worst. But to grow up there would be to just live completely unguided, left to your own devices, unparented. The story doesn't end for us even when we do find a place to live, because, I mean, you are more than the event of the adoption. When I went into the system, I had 14 years of history that was completely erased by my adoptive parents. They had this vision of a family and a life for me that I was expected to fulfill. And whenever I didn't, whenever I couldn't, um, then I wasn't useful anymore, and they cut me off. Um, these people in these narratives, the actual children themselves who are living through this, um, you know, they don't really get a choice. They don't have a lot of say in what happens to them, and it is necessary that we remove them from these situations. It's necessary. But it's not necessary to have this this propaganda that directly harms all of the people involved in the system, that says that adoption is a wonderful, perfect thing, and you will be happy as soon as it's over, because then it's over and it's done. It's a process. You cannot just adopt a child into your family. You are adopting who they are and what they are and where they come from as well. That also needs to be incorporated into your family and into your life. Any narrative that pushes the idea that adoption happens in a vacuum and is a perfectly contained event is a narrative that works to commodify children. And children do get commodified in our current system. Adoptees that are relinquished at birth, transracial adoptees, a lot of these people feel like they've been trafficked. Closed adoptions can happen where money exchanges hands for the possession of a child. In a just world, this probably couldn't happen. Our current system is pushed to the extremes, and most children never get placed. I don't want anyone to come out of the adoptive system with the experience that I did, even considering that my experience was a good one, relatively speaking. I want people to live safe, happy lives and to grow up in safe, happy homes. And that's it.